Hi there, I'm Sterling and you are continuing to learn American English with me. I talked in the connecting video about active and passive voice, so I wrote a little dialogue, or it's not a dialogue, I wrote a little history here. This is a story of something that happened in my past, and the story is kind of interesting and it may be very helpful for you to use to understand the use of active and passive in everyday conversation. So, this is about brake service. Brake service, like on your car, the brakes on your car. My father was very mechanically inclined. My dad, my late father, who left this earth now 15 years ago, was known by his circle of acquaintances as a very competent mechanic, maybe even a brilliant mechanic. And my dad enjoyed this challenge of solving mechanical problems. And although he certainly was very intelligent and practical, he was thought of by his friends as more intelligent than he probably was, in fact. But people thought of him as very clever. In fact, he was intelligent, and at the same time, he was more confident and sure of his abilities than most other people. So, by those that knew him, he was considered by many to be a really brilliant man. But the truth is, I know him very well, he was just very practical. And on top of that, in addition to that, he never believed that any job was too difficult for him. He never thought anything was too hard. In fact, he believed that because he knew he could do anything, and I think it's because he was convinced that he could do anything, and he also was convinced that he should do everything. Which means, like, in my family, in our house, in our household, in the community of our family, there was hardly anything, not anything ever that was done by another person. That means my dad did it, we helped him do it. And if there was anything that needed to be done, my dad believed that it had to be done by him. It was very difficult for him to hire out any job. It could be done either by himself or with the help of his friends or by us, the family. And my dad also believed that it was a big waste of money to pay someone else to do a job that he was perfectly capable of doing himself. So, consequently, as a result, as children, when we were children, a lot was expected of us by our father. He expected us to do all kinds of things. He would show us how to do something, and then it was just assumed. It was assumed that we would and could get that job done. I'll give you an example. First, let me set a little more background for the example. Let me tell you about our family, a little bit more about my family and about my rather eccentric father. We were very automobile oriented in our family, very Italian automobile oriented because of our dad. We had Italian cars. Everything was Italian if it was mechanical. Dad could do anything and everything related to mechanical work on any car, and he expected that we, the children, also would be able to do this. In his mind, everything was simple. You just set your mind to it. You just decide you're going to do it, and you can do it. And that was his philosophy. That was his way of thinking. And actually, it was very good. So this story is also going to be a good vocabulary builder. There's some automobile terms in here. If you don't understand the automobile terms, it's not so important. It's not so important. But this is this is something that really happened. We had this particular car, and it was one of many, many Italian cars we had in the family. This particular car was a 1969 Alfa Romeo 1750 Berlina. It was a four-door Italian sedan. It had disc brakes on all four wheels. Disc brakes on all four wheels was a new feature for many cars in that era. That car was a 69, and I suppose this story I'm telling took place around 1973 or maybe 74, when I was still in high school. My dad knew that I'd watched him. I'd seen him replacing brake pads, replacing disc brake pads on other cars. And maybe I'd seen this kind of work done on this particular Alfa, but he was expecting that I should know how to do this based on what he knew I had seen from watching him. And I suppose I was 15 years old, more or less. I can't remember. I don't remember if I had a driver's license. I don't know. But from the fact that I had watched him, it was expected. It was expected by him that I should be able to do this simple task, replacing brake pads from memory. And in fact, it was relatively easy because I had seen it done before. And I really wanted to be like my dad. I really wanted to show him how smart I could be. And so I believed that I could do it. I tried to believe that I could do it, but maybe I didn't try hard enough. And I believed I could do it. The problem was that I did not share his level of confidence, self-confidence. And I had no idea what to do when something challenging happened, something out of the ordinary. So anyway, my dad was not at home. He gave me this job to do. He said, when I get back, I want brakes on the car. So I got the car up on the jack, no problem. And I removed the left front wheel, no problem. I remember it was the left side. I don't know why. And then I removed the circlips that held in the two little wedges that retain the caliper. No problem. Then I used a hammer and a punch to drive out the wedges. No problem with that. Then I withdrew the caliper. No problems. I was doing well. I pulled out the two brake pads, and yeah, they were completely worn out. There was almost no asbestos braking material left on the brake pads. They were almost steel rubbing on steel. Great. I felt great at this point because this was the first time I ever had removed a disc brake caliper by myself. I got the new brake pads out of the box, and then something happened I had not expected. Of course, like I said, the old pads were very, very thin, and consequently, as a result, the pistons, the brake pistons that push the pads into the rotor when you're braking, these pistons were almost fully extended because they're pushing them closer and closer to the rotor. Now, how was I going to push those pistons back again to allow enough room to put the caliper over the brake pads? Well, the logical solution, of course, would be to find a tool to push the pistons back into their original position. My dad had not told me about this part. He assumed that I would be intelligent enough to do that. We have a saying in English, when you assume, the word assume is spelled A-S-S-U-M-E. When you assume, you make an ass, A-S-S, out of you, and me, M-E-A-S-S-U-M-E. Don't assume, you make an ass out of you and me. I was only 15. This was my first experience at replacing brakes on a car. And of course, now I know the correct solution is to use a C-clamp and a flat piece of metal against the piston, and then you tighten the C-clamp to push the piston back in. But this was my first brake job. I was 15. I had no idea what to do. So my mom was home. I asked my mom. And of course, my mom, she knew nothing. I thought she might know because she was a full adult, and I knew I wasn't. I was 15. And I think it was me. I should say I think it was I. That's incorrect grammar. But if I say I think it was me, that sounds better in my language, even though it's incorrect. Because if I say I think it was I, that's correct, but it sounds wrong. So I always say, I think it was me that suggested that she get in the car, press on the brake pedal, and I would try to push the pistons back in while she did that. And of course, that was really stupid. That's the opposite of what I wanted to do. The outcome of her pushing on the brake pedal would be to push the pistons out even further. And that's exactly what happened, of course. But in my inexperienced 15-year-old brain, the pistons would somehow go back to their initial position when you use the brake fluid pressure to push them out. So that was the end of that job. The pistons got pushed all the way out. I had no idea what to do until my dad got home. And in fact, my dad was upset with me for doing this. And he said something to me like, wasn't it obvious that you'd be pushing the piston the wrong way by using the brake pedal? Well, yeah, I guess it was. It was a little bit stupid. And I said, yeah, it was. Well, then why did you do that? I don't know. But I was expected, even at age 15, to be as practical and experienced and as intelligent as he was. But I wasn't as intelligent as my dad had hoped I might be. And on the other hand, I did learn from the experience because almost 50 years from now, I've known very well how to retract the pistons when you replace brake pads. So I keep C-clamps and flat pieces of metal in my toolbox just for that purpose. But, okay, that was an exercise in recognizing passive voice. I think I might put this text in the comments section in addition to enabling the subtitles in this video. So you can do both. You can watch the subtitles, you can read the text and pick out, see if you can identify the passive and active versions of grammar in that story. And I also hope you enjoyed the story. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.